All right, welcome to, here's the recording, MAPD124, which is Advanced iOS in the winter 2017 semester at Centennial. We are broadcasting live. I feel like I'm in the Matrix. Anyways, so we're broadcasting live on YouTube. Again, please bear with me in terms of quality right now. I don't have a wired connection. I'm going to try and remedy that. Usually I do. And the reason why is because if everyone is wireless in this room and I'm broadcasting wirelessly, sometimes it'll cut out in and out and the synchronization will be a little off. But the great thing is because I'm recording live, I have the opportunity to put up a cleaner copy. That's why this is called broadcast. And I can also kind of record I'm creating a recording at the same time. All right. So again, I'm using Slack, and I've got my channels up there, like the actual channel. I'm going to be using this iOS 2 sub-channel a lot, okay? And this is where I'm going to be putting a lot of my updates and so on. I'm not going to stop updating eCentennial, though, for those people who really don't like Slack for whatever reason. But this is a great way. If you're remote, you want to ask a question, you ask it through Slack, and then even if I'm broadcasting live and you're not here and you want to stay at home that day because it's a big bad snow day or something like that, we can still go, right? And there might be an opportunity where it's such a bad snow day that we're all home, including me, right? If it happens. But I'll still broadcast, which means we can still get the class going, and then you can still see the videos and we can still have the content. Luckily, we're on a Tuesday, so we're not going to lose a lot of time this semester. Mondays and Fridays are usually really bad in the winter semester for losing time. You're going to lose like Family Day on a Monday, Easter Monday. So like poor Victor is going to lose a couple days, right? And then Friday for Easter Monday, for Easter Friday, for Good Friday, right? And so on. There's some other holidays that come up. It's kind of bad. You'll lose like 3 days, through the semester if you're like on Monday or Friday. But we're on Tuesday, so there should be nothing that affects us. And I say nothing other than weather. Yay! Thank you. All right, so I want to talk about assignment 1. Again, this is a review. We're going to talk about reviewing, iOS today, but let's talk about assignment 1 and what the requirements are. Now, this is up on eCentennial. It's due in a couple weeks. Okay, it's an individual assignment. There's no pairing up with anybody else. This is you alone that's going to be delivering this, right? And you're going to be creating a simple calculator app. Okay, it's due January 23rd, which is the Monday, not the Tuesday when we get together. Okay, why? Right? Because if I make it due on the Tuesday, no one's going to be here, right? They're going to be working on their assignment. Not going to happen. It's going to be working on. It's going to be due on a Monday. So please show up for Victor's class, because even though it's due on a Monday, right? Still show up for Victor's class and do the assignment. I'll give you some time in class too. It's worth 10% of your final grade. Can you believe it? It's 10% already, and I'm starting off like this. So you're making a simple calculator app. I want you to make it look like this exactly. All right, as much as possible. Now you might think this is easy to do, like I said, but actually there are some complications here, especially since what the size of the app looks like, right? Now it may not look exactly like this because obviously you're making an app that's going to fit a screen that's for mobile, right? But the keys that I want you to put in are these keys. So the basic function keys for adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. Here's what I don't want you to do. I don't want you to evaluate the string that you're going to type in. I don't want you to do that. Okay, some people in the past have tried to use an evaluate statement because Swift will actually evaluate a string and add things together. No. That's not the solution, all right? If you're trying to use the evaluate method, it's kind of a cheat because what it'll take the string and then it'll evaluate the plussing, the adding, dividing, and subtracting everything, and it'll give you the answer. That's not what I want. I want you, when you press stuff, for it to, create the experience of a calculator. Notice that I don't have square root function. Percent is not required. Okay, so please, even though it says percent here, I just took a snapshot of a default app, a calculator app. It doesn't have to be this. AC should be clear. All right, so it'll be like the clear button, or reset, if you will, to reset your calculator. And plus or minus, the reason why this is usually here is to change the sign of what you're adding or subtracting. Okay, this is all I want. Now this looks, like I said, deceivingly simple, but actually it can be quite complex from an algorithm perspective. Okay, so let's talk about how you're going to do it, right? Yeah, let's put some buttons on the screen. But hold on, what happens when I turn my app to the side? What happens to this calculator, right? Should it remain the same? Are you going to make it available for landscape as well as portrait? What's happening there, right? So those are the challenges. Now, by default, I'm not going to make you make it so that it goes landscape or portrait. All I care about is portrait view, okay? For a bonus, I'm gonna challenge you to see if you can do it both views, if you want a bonus mark. So no matter what you do, how you turn your device around in your emulator or whatever in your simulator or in the actual device, hopefully you'll use a real device to test with, it'll adapt to your screen. And that's what we're doing today. We're kind of starting adaptive layout today. Okay, so that's part of it. The other thing is that it should work on any iOS device, right? Sorry, any iPhone. It doesn't have to be on an iPad. iPad, it should look like this, right? So I don't expect you to make a universal app, right? Because a universal app is tricky when it comes to adaptive layout. Just make it for iPhone, okay? Which means it'll kind of, again, it'll shorten your requirements. It won't make it as difficult. Because if I said make it work for any app, that's a whole other thing you have to figure out, right? So please don't do that, just for iPhone, okay? Questions around what I'm asking for you to do. This is, you might say, Tom, it's so simple. I can do it today. Please do it. I want you to show me you can do it in an hour. I really want you to show me that. If I gave you this on an exam, you wouldn't finish. I'll tell you right now. It wouldn't happen because it's more complex than you think. If anyone ever built a calculator app for any other course, okay, try it. Try it for C#. Try it with C++. Try it with any language. Try it on the web. It's not as easy as you think. How are you going to get the input? First of all, what is the input going to come in as? Anybody? Am I going to get numbers from the input? String. They're going to be all strings. You have to convert. So that's the first thing. You're going to have to do all these conversions, right? That's the first thing you got to think about. From a programming perspective, that's the first challenge. How do I convert what I get in there? Other things that I want to point out, and I'm going to stand up. Hopefully I won't lose. Maybe the blue mic will be okay. I don't know. But the other thing that I want you to think about, and I'll try and talk as loudly as I can to the mic, is if you notice up here, right, the 0 is in the right position. It's not to the left, which means you're going right to left. That's another thing that's a challenge, right? Because think about this, what's happening here. You've got the 0 on the right, and when you type it, it kind of goes to the left. That's a typical calculator, right? How are you going to do that? Another thing you got to think about, okay? Some people, now, if you can't do it, it's okay. Just a mark loss, for that kind of stuff. But I want you to think about how to do these things. These are challenges to overcome. Colors for the buttons, the layout to make it look like this or whatever, right? That's part of it. Okay, what about the dot? If I go like 1.3, right? What if I press dot again, right? It would allow you unless you limit it. So you have to kind of detect, did the dot get pressed, right? You got to think about to yourself. It shouldn't allow you, the app should not allow you to press that period or the decimal over and over again. It should only allow you to do it once, right? That's a challenge, right? Because that means you have to detect what's been pushed for that particular operation, right? What happens if you do a series of operations? 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 minus 3 divided by 2, and then you press the equals button, right? How does it keep track of all that stuff, right? Probably with an array or some kind of other structure, right? Now, there's other ways to do it. And this is the part of the challenge. I want to talk about this with you guys. Here's what's okay to do for this assignment. Talk to your friends, right? It's okay to share, an idea of how to do the solution. But I don't want just one solution from the entire class. That would be very bad, right? So please talk to us, say, how to do that? And then they might see, some kind of a way of doing it, because that's what we do as developers, right? It's okay to access the internet. It's okay to, kind of do some research to figure out how this is done, right? Making an app like this, like I said, is deceivingly simple, but actually quite difficult, right? So we'll talk about this, and also it'll stretch your skills in terms of iOS and everything else. Okay, let's take a look at what it's asking for here, right? So details. This is how I write my assignments. You're going to see, and Shemek normally does it like me as well. So if you may have seen this kind of style before, more or less what I'm saying is this. So a series of number buttons and a decimal point. I'm not telling you which number buttons. Hopefully you'll know it's 0 to 9, right? But this is worth 4 marks UI, user interface design, and 4 marks functionality. That's how I break it down, okay? For this instruction that I'm giving you, right? And it'll be the same for the operator buttons. Here's a great thing. if I should be able to share in some ways one method, if you will, for all the buttons on my calculator. How do I do that? Were you guys taught that last semester? One method, not 10, right? Which you could probably do here. 10 methods would be really brute force. That'd be like terrible, right? Because we're going to use the sender object, right? Just like we would in other programming languages, right? Okay, a display label or other suitable view control that displays the result of any calculation. So number of buttons, operator buttons, and a display label. Basics for a calculator, right? And a reset button somehow. You could call it clear, you can call it reset, you can call it AC, right? Something like that. Those are all the buttons that you need. Okay, internal documentation required. I want you to, what this means is I want you to comment your code. Comment what you've done. Tell me how you come to your solution, right? Part of the requirements. It's worth 5 marks out of 33. Please don't forget to do this. And that means you have to talk about things like, okay, put your file name, the author's name, the date, the app description, all that kind of stuff on all of your view controllers if you have more than one. Okay. And please don't over comment. I don't expect a comment for every line of code. It's just for your method, tell me what you're doing here, right? If you're using more than one method, right? Finally, share your files on GitHub, right? So you get 2 points if you just put your files up in a repository, 2 points. But if you use, proper version control, that means that every time you make a change, you make a new commit, okay? That gives you your full 4 points, okay? That's where the marks are coming from. Optional features. This is where you can get bonus marks and to stretch yourself a little bit, okay? Splash screen. Make a splash screen. You guys should have known how to do multiple screens from last semester, right? There should be no problem if you guys knew what to do. Again, this app, hold on, this app tests how much you know. That's what this is doing. That's why I'm doing this assignment for you, right? It tells me, gives me a sense of where you guys sit, right? In terms of programming, in terms of thinking, in terms of user interface design, the whole thing. Other math functions, like for every math function you add, I'm probably going to give you a couple bonus points. Example, square root, right? You got to get the square root symbol somehow in there, right? And there's other ones too, right? Any other math operations you want to do, right? And here's the last part. Part C is your app is adaptive to various orientations. I'm going to give you 4 bonus marks for that. So there's the potential, lots of bonus marks for this one, right? I don't care if you guys do over 100%. Whatever you give me is what I'm going to give you, right? So if you guys do like, I don't know, a bunch of different things, like, a bunch of math functions and they all work and they're all evaluated properly, you're not going to use some kind of crazy evaluation statement, then that's great. I'll give you bonus marks for all those things because it's going to affect your user interface. It's going to affect the way you do your functions and all kinds of stuff. All right, how do you submit your work? A zip archive, not RAR. I don't want RAR files of your entire project file, your entire project up on eCentennial in the Dropbox, which I already have there for you already, right? And a link to your GitHub repo. Okay, it's got to be both those 2 things. Why? Because in the past, what's happened is you give me your zip files and no link, and the zip file is terrible, right? Doesn't work, right? Or you give me a link to GitHub and not your zip files, and your link to GitHub is empty. That's really bad, right? It means you're going to get a 0, and that's crazy to start the semester off. So please give me both. Make sure that both are working. Test your repo, make sure that it's there, and then show me your project files on eCentennial. Again, this is an individual assignment. I just broke down all the marks down here in a little simple rubric. So it just kind of tells you where all your marks are coming from. It's 12 for UI, 12 functionality, 5 for internal documentation, and 4 for version control for a total of 33 marks. All right? Again, weighted at 10% of your final grade. Questions around this crazy little calculator app, which you guys should know how to do with your eyes closed, right? No questions? You guys are perfect? You know how to do all this stuff? Come on. Any concerns? How about that with this one? Shouldn't be any concerns, right? I'm not telling you not to speak to anybody. Here's something that I want you to know. If you do your assignment, this assignment, all right? If we do any kind of exams in this course, and again, from an exam perspective, we're trying to cut down on stuff. If I do anything, I might do a midterm exam or something like that, like a little test. There will only be one, right? I'm not going to do crazy tests like we've done in other courses. If you do assignment number 1, assignment number 2, you'll be fine on your test, right? If you don't do assignment number 1, or you don't do it by yourself and you get someone else to help you with it, that would be very bad, right? Because then you're going to suffer on tests, because tests are all individual, and I'm going to get you to build something in class that day, right? So again, I'm not a killer crazy guy. I'm not going to make you build something that's going to take you 4 hours. I usually build my tests for about an hour and a half, 2 hour max build. And I usually give you a template to start with, right? So you don't start with nothing. You start with something. Okay. All right. So that's due again, January 23rd. And if you look at the calendar for January 23rd, that would be a Monday at midnight. That's when it's due. Okay. So I'm giving you it now so that you have a couple weeks to get this done. Please don't wait to start. Okay. Get this started as soon as possible. And here's some strategies for getting this started. Start with your user interface. Get all the user interface elements working properly. That's number 1. Then add the application logic on the back end after. Okay? Why is that? Because your user interface is worth 12 marks out of 20, it's out of 33. If you just get that part done and it works properly and it looks nice, you almost pass, right? I'm telling you ways of passing. Is it going to be great? No, it probably won't work, right? But I mean, you almost have a passing mark just doing user interface, right? You do user interface and you do some documentation, you put it up on GitHub, I think that passes you, right? Like I'm telling you right now, these are basics, right? And I've geared it towards that because some of you may end up not being developers, like an actual app developer. You might be UI designers in the future, so that's okay. It won't give you a great mark, but at least it'll pass you for this one, right? I'm really hoping though that you can show me that you really know what you're doing in iOS, and you can do a little bit of research with a couple weeks in class and out of class to make this something that's kind of rocking. Yeah. You have a question? 3. Using the latest version of Swift, right? Which is the one that's on, should be in the systems in front of you. If not, if the system in front of you is still using the old system, we're going to upgrade it over the next week or so. So don't despair, okay? Like if the system in front of you hasn't been updated, which it should have been over the holidays. Yay. We'll update it for you, okay? So worst case scenario, don't worry about it. The system in front of you, the one that's in the lab, we'll update it to the latest version, right? And we'll give you Xcode 8 and iOS 10 access, okay? So don't worry about that. We'll do the same thing with other devices. They should all have iOS 10 on them, right? So there shouldn't be an issue. But worst case scenario, to your question, if we don't get the system updated and you did it in Swift 2, I'd be okay with it. Okay, worst case scenario. I'm not going to kill you guys, right? Any other questions around assignment number 1, right? I know it sounds like it's a calculator. I kind of laugh. It's a calculator app, right? But it's a good test, right? And if you know how to do this calculator app, I kind of use a calculator app as my hello world. Whenever I build an app in any other language, if I build it on Android, do a calculator app on Android. You'll see how difficult it can be, right? Now, it's going to be easier than iOS. It is. Believe it or not, it is easier to do in Android than iOS because of the way iOS does stuff, right? Apple puts up some, I would say, obstacles to production, to make sure that you really want to be an Apple developer, right? Especially if you're going to create a little calculator put up in the App Store. There would be human interface guidelines. You'd have to kind of do a little dance to make everything improved, right? We're not asking you to do that here. All I'm asking you to do is make it as best as you can. Okay, I've also got for later on today, and I'm going to talk about this next. So I'm going to shut this down. I've also got this beginning adaptive layout handout, okay? So this is the kind of the example that I want you to do. Now, this comes from another book, right? And I've done this a couple of times now, since iOS 8, actually. And I always find that students struggle to do this kind of stuff, adaptive layouts. And the best opportunity to do this is just to follow this walkthrough. It tells you to open up an Xcode project, right? And kind of a step-by-step on what to do. And it kind of talks about, there's an app that you'll build called Adaptive Weather, right? So you'll build a little weather app with actually no connection. There won't be an actual weather app. All I want you to do is do a user interface that's adaptive, right? That's what this handout does. And we're going to do that for the second part of today. I want you to work with a partner, pick a partner. Doesn't have to be someone you're working with on your final project or whatever. That's going to happen tomorrow. Pick anybody, right? Please don't do this alone. All right, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Yeah, 9 groups, right? So there's 9 people. There's 9 groups, exactly 18 people in the class today. So I think we have enough to pair with somebody. Please do not do this alone. And please don't ask me to do it with a third person. This is a group, like a partner project, partner programming, right? And please don't only let one person do all the typing, all right? Like, switch up. You know, let the other person do some work too, or find out how to do this stuff. Now, here's the challenge with this one. This is for iOS 8, right? There are some challenges, some differences between, perfect, 20 people. That means there's still 10 groups, right? So there are some challenges, some differences between iOS 8 and iOS 10, which means you're going to have to do a little bit of Googling to figure things out. How do I do the same stuff that it's asking you to do in the handout, right? And again, there's 26 pages on this handout, okay? But there's a lot of images, right? So it's going to take you a little bit of time in class to try and figure this out. Why am I getting you to do this? Because I want you to all have the bonus marks for the calculator assignment. That's what this is all for, right? So if you do this, it's going to pay back, you know, marks to you, because you'll know how to make an adaptive app that works on any device, right? So that's why I'm getting, that's what the motivation is behind this thing. So please don't discount this. There are some really cool learnings, some things that will not work properly that I want you to check out. At the end of today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a Dropbox, and I want you and your partner to submit this as Lab 1. Okay, I don't have this right now, but if you submit it and if it kind of works, you'll get 2% of your final grade today, right? So if you do it, so you and your partner get this done by the end of the day, 2% of your final grade. It's a check or X. Did you do it or did you not, right? If you made it work, 2%. If you didn't make it work, 0, right? If you made it kind of work, 1%, right? So it's 2% of your final grade. So a bit of a challenge today, right? You'll have time in class to do it. So it's not like you're going to run away and you're going to take it home or whatever. What about if you didn't make it into class today? Too bad, so sad, right? What can I tell you? And this is the thing that happens, right? So what about if you're watching this remotely next time and I give you a challenge for you and your partner, right? Worst case scenario, here's what I want you to do when you're away. Send me a note saying, Tom, I will not be in. If there's a lab exercise, do you mind if I do it on my own? Chances are I'll say, sure, you do it on your own, no problem, right, for 2%. You got to let me know that you're doing it on your own and you're not going to be here, right? If no one is in the class, well, that's really bad. I would have to kind of judge that, right? Maybe I won't do the lab exercise that day, right? But anyways, the point is that it'll be an opportunity for you guys to interact with each other, right? Which, you know, you should already know each other pretty well by now from last semester. And it'll also give you a chance to be hands-on. I would recommend that you let the guy or the girl who's the weakest person do the typing, right? So that way they can learn the most out of this, right? Now, from a speed perspective, if you want to get the marks, I know you're laughing. If you want to get the marks from a speed perspective, here's the strategy. Then let the best typer do the typing, right? The fastest typer, because you're going to have to do stuff. Here's the great thing to do. Put this up on the screen, right? One person do the typing, and the other person is going to do this thing. And we're going to start with this exercise right now, okay? So you're going to start with this thing right now, and then we're going to get into the PowerPoint presentation that I put up online after the exercise, right? Now, I can't give you the whole class time to do it, right? So I'm going to give you a limit. Right now, we're sitting at around 7:21, which is kind of an hour in to class, approximately. I'm going to give you 2 hours, right, max, which you should give you enough time to get this little app done, right? Remember, you're working with a partner, and you got a guide, right? You can also talk to each other. Hey, man, what did you do? I couldn't get this work. How did you do this thing? It's okay. In fact, you can talk to each other so much, you can go to the other group and say, I couldn't make this work. How'd you do it? Da, 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 da. And if you all work together, you all get 2%, right? It's not an assignment that we don't talk to each other, because in real life, we always talk to each other, all right? Any questions around this? It'll be called Lab 1. I'm going to put it up on eCentennial right now, and it'll be for you and your partner. When you submit, submission details, right? When you submit, I want you to just indicate who your partner is, and I want both partners to submit. I don't want just one person. So everybody submits that's in the class, right? So I should have 20 submissions today, right? Because there's 20 people in the class today, okay? But you and your partner, let's say if you guys are working together, I'm guessing, right?
He's going to work.
You're not going to work, he's going to work? Okay. Well, when you and your partner work together, I want you to have the exact same submission, right? Here's the challenge. I want you to put it up on GitHub, right? I want you to give me a project file. So it's going to be your project files on eCentennial, right? Both of you have to kind of come up with this. All I need is one GitHub repo. So one of you or your partner, create a GitHub repo and connect to it. Here's a challenge. I didn't tell you how to do this in Xcode. It's actually built in. If you look at version control, you can actually Google how to do version control in Xcode. Do it. Check it out, and I'll come around and help. All right. I'm not going to just like say, "See you later, guys. I'm going to go to the washer." Right. And I'll see you in a couple hours. Right. Right. It's not going to happen. Right. I'm going to come around and help you guys out, so there won't be any issues with it. Questions around Lab 1?
We don't have Xcode 8.
It's okay. Do Xcode 8. All right, for today. Okay.
Xcode 7.
Sorry, Xcode 7. Yes. Do Xcode 7 today. It's fine. Okay. Any other questions? So Xcode 7 is okay for today, and Swift 2 because we don't have our machines updated. That's okay, right? Any other issues? Please, if you do not have a partner, all right, do not wait and say like for 2 hours and go, I didn't have a partner, so I didn't do it. Partner with somebody. Get together with somebody. Pick somebody. If you don't know them, it's okay. Just sit down and get it done. Okay? There's 20 people. That means there's 10 groups. Okay? Go. I'm going to stop recording now. If you have a problem, come and talk to me. Okay, there's 21 people. There we go.